When I was 15, I came home from school and found my house empty. Not quiet, empty. The living room was stripped bare. The TV gone. Couch gone. Even the curtains were missing. My first thought was burglary. Then I saw the note. It sat in the center of the kitchen counter. One line. "You'll figure it out." That was all. No name, no explanation. Just my mother's handwriting. At first, I froze. Then I opened every door in the house. Bedrooms, closets, garage. All empty. Their clothes, photos, dishes, gone. They hadn't been robbed. They'd packed up and left. I called every number I knew. My mom's, my dad's, my brother Ethan's. All disconnected. I even ran next door, but the neighbor said they moved last week. That night, I sat on the kitchen floor with the note in my hand until the lights went out. I didn't cry. I just stared at the walls, realizing they'd left me on purpose. By morning, the landlord showed up. Lease was canceled. "You've got a week to leave." A week. At 15, I spent it packing what I could into one duffel bag, a few clothes, my sketchbook, and a birthday card Ethan gave me when I turned 12. It said, "To the best sister ever." I stared at that line until it stopped meaning anything. When the house finally locked behind me, I had nowhere to go. I slept at a friend's for a few nights, then another. When that ran out, I rented a storage unit with my last $60. It smelled like dust and metal, but at least it was mine. I slept on the concrete with a blanket, showered at the YMCA, ate peanut butter from a jar. No one knew. I didn't tell a soul. When I turned 16, I lied about my age and got a job at a 24-hour diner. My manager, Gloria, paid in cash and didn't ask questions. Once, she caught me dozing off in the break room and said, "Get some rest, kid. You work like you're fighting ghosts." I worked double shifts, studied at the library, and watched free tutorials on interior design. Something about rebuilding spaces felt right, like fixing what my family had destroyed. By 21, I had a degree. By 25, my own design studio. I never looked back. For years, I told myself I didn't need closure. That success was revenge enough. But pain doesn't disappear. It just waits. Last month, I did a podcast about resilience, about growing after betrayal. I didn't mention my family, but the story hit a nerve. It went viral. 1 million plays in 4 days. And this morning, an email appeared from Margaret Sinclair. Subject: "We're still your family." My chest went cold. I read it once, twice. No apology. Just, "We heard your podcast. Maybe we could talk." After 13 years of silence, I sat there in my office, the one I built from nothing, and stared at the screen. All the old feelings came flooding back. Confusion, anger, that stupid hope I thought I'd buried. They'd left me like I was disposable. And now, suddenly, I was worth remembering. I closed the email and whispered to myself, "You left me once. Don't come back now." I didn't reply right away. For 13 years they hadn't cared whether I was dead or alive, and now they wanted to talk because of a podcast. Still, I couldn't stop rereading the message. "We're still your family." It made me sick. I forwarded it to my therapist, Dr. Ward. She called that evening. "Don't respond yet," she said. "Give yourself space to feel. There's no deadline for closure." I promised I wouldn't, but my mind didn't listen. 2 days later, another email came, this time from my brother. From Ethan Sinclair. Subject: "Can we talk?" His message was short. "Ava, I know you hate me, and you have every right to. I was 17 when they left. I didn't know they were going to. I thought you were with a friend. Please, can we talk?" I stared at his words until my eyes burned. He'd been old enough to drive, old enough to ask where I was. He hadn't. Still, I replied, "What changed after 13 years?" His answer came an hour later. The podcast. "You made me see how bad it was. I'm sorry." The word didn't land the way it used to. It just felt empty. He kept emailing. Told me our parents were struggling, that dad's business had failed, that mom wasn't well. He didn't say it directly, but I could read between the lines. They wanted money. I ignored him for days. Then guilt started whispering. Maybe he really wanted to fix things. Maybe I owed him at least one conversation. So I agreed to meet him, halfway, in Milwaukee. Neutral ground. I arrived first. Chose a quiet cafe by the lake. My hands wouldn't stop shaking even though I'd told myself I was calm. When Ethan walked in, I barely recognized him. He looked older, heavier, with the same tired eyes I remembered. He smiled like we were meeting after a long vacation, not a lifetime. "Ava," he said softly, "you look different." "So do you." My voice came out flat. We sat across from each other, both pretending to be comfortable. The silence dragged until he finally spoke. "I didn't know they were leaving you. I swear." I watched him carefully. "You expect me to believe that?" "I was 17, Ava. They said you had plans to stay with a friend, that you didn't want to move. I believed them." I laughed, short and cold. "You never tried to check?" He looked down. "I should've. I was scared of Dad. He said if I caused trouble, he'd cut me off too." I wanted to feel something, anger, sadness, anything, but mostly, I felt numb. He told me about his life, a small accounting job, a wife named Sophie, a daughter. Then he started circling the real reason he'd come. Our parents, they're in a bad spot. thought. Medical bills, debts. There it was. I leaned back. You didn't reach out for closure. You reached out because they need money. His face went pale. That's not. Save it. I cut in. You could have found me years ago. I was one Google search away. He looked like he wanted to argue but couldn't. He just whispered, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix 15. The waitress dropped off our coffees. Neither of us touched them. After a long silence, he said, they always said you'd survive without us. They said you were strong, that you didn't need them. That's the lie they told themselves so they could sleep at night. He didn't answer, just stared at his cup like the truth was written at the bottom. When we finally stood to leave, he tried to hug me. I didn't move. He hesitated, then dropped his arms and said, you really hate me that much? I met his eyes. I don't hate you. I just don't trust you. I walked out without looking back. That night, in my hotel room, I replayed everything he'd said. For the first time in years, I cried, not for them, but for the 15-year-old girl who'd waited by the phone for calls that never came. I wiped my face, took a deep breath, and whispered to the empty room, they left me once. They won't do it again. Then one afternoon, I got a knock at my office door. A woman stood there, brown hair in a messy bun, a tired smile on her face. Ava? She asked softly. I'm Sophie, Ethan's wife. I froze. How did you find me? He didn't send me, she said quickly. I came on my own. Please, I just need 10 minutes. Something in her voice stopped me from shutting the door. I let her in. She sat across from me, twisting her wedding ring nervously. I heard your podcast months ago, she said. I didn't even know it was you until recently. Ethan never told me the full story. He said you ran away at 15, that you didn't want to be part of the family. My stomach turned. That's what they told everyone? She nodded slowly. Worse. They said you stole money before disappearing, that your parents spent years looking for you. I thought it was strange, but I believed them. Until I saw your interview. She pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots, old Facebook posts from my parents. My mom asking for prayers for her troubled daughter. My dad claiming I'd taken their savings. All lies. I stared at the photos, feeling something inside me break open. Not pain this time, just disbelief. They made themselves the victims, I said quietly. They did, Sophie whispered. When I confronted them last week, they finally admitted it. They left you behind. No excuses. Just said you'd be fine on your own. My chest felt tight. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know. And because they're desperate now. They're lying to everyone again, this time saying you turned the world against them. I leaned back in my chair, my pulse pounding. Ethan knows? She nodded. He's scared. They've been showing up at our house, calling nonstop. Your dad grabbed my arm last night when I told him to leave. I stood. What? She pulled back her sleeve. A faint bruise bloomed on her wrist. I told Ethan to call the police. He didn't want to. Said they're still his parents. I grabbed my phone. Not anymore. That night, I called my lawyer, Mark Patel. He listened quietly as I explained everything. The break-ins, the harassment, the lies. He didn't hesitate. We'll file restraining orders first thing tomorrow, he said. Start documenting everything. The next day was a blur of forms, statements, and police reports. Ethan came with Sophie, looking like a ghost. When he saw me, he couldn't even meet my eyes. I didn't know they'd go this far, he said. You never do until they cross your line, I replied. We left the courthouse together. For the first time in years, I felt like I had control, like the story was finally mine. But it didn't last long. That night, I woke to my phone buzzing, an email notification from Margaret Sinclair. Subject: if you go to court, you'll regret it. No body text, just that one line. I stared at it until my hand stopped shaking, then forwarded it to Mark. He called immediately. This helps our case, he said. Don't respond. They're unraveling. He was right. Over the next few days, everything spiraled. Ethan called, voice trembling. They broke into my house, Ava. Took old photos, documents, even Lily's baby album. Sophie was crying in the background. They left a note, Ethan said. It said, family matters should stay in the family. I felt my blood go cold. You need to get out of that house. Now. I drove over that night. The police were already there, taking statements, half believing, half dismissing. The place was a mess. Drawers open, paper scattered. When I saw Sophie's bruise again, darker this time, I knew this wasn't just harassment. It was control, the same control they'd used on me for years. Mark met us at the house. He took pictures, notes, everything. They crossed a line, he said. We'll strengthen the restraining order. Keep all communication documented. Ethan sat on the couch, hands over his face. This is my fault. I should have stopped them. I looked at him, really looked. You can't stop people who think they own you. You can only get away from them. He nodded slowly. For once, he understood. That night, they stayed at my apartment. My building had security, cameras, a doorman who already knew not to let my parents in. It felt safer, for a while, but when the doorman called the next morning, his voice was uneasy. Ava, there's a flower delivery downstairs. The card says, we know where you all are. I felt the blood drain from my face. Send it back, I said quietly, and call the police. I hung up and stared at the wall, my hands trembling, my mind already building building walls higher than any I'd ever designed. They wanted to break me again, but not this time. The restraining orders came through a week later. 3 years, no contact, no approach. The judge looked straight at my parents when she signed them and said, "You're lucky this isn't worse." They didn't even flinch. My mother dabbed fake tears. My father stared at me like I'd betrayed him, but for the first time in my life, I didn't care. Outside the courthouse, Ethan hugged me. Sophie held Lily close. It should have felt over. It didn't. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. A photo of Lily playing in a backyard. Under it, 4 words. "This isn't over yet." My stomach twisted. I forwarded it to Mark, my lawyer. He called instantly. "That's a direct threat. Stay put. I'm contacting the police." But I couldn't stay still. I kept replaying that image, my niece, smiling, unaware that monsters shared her last name. Ethan and Sophie moved into my apartment the next day. My place felt crowded, but I didn't mind. Safety mattered more than space. For a while, things were calm, until one night, around 2 a.m., I saw headlights outside my building. My father's car. He parked across the street and just sat there, engine running, lights off, watching. I took photos, sent them to Mark. He said it wasn't technically a violation unless he entered the property. The law protected them more than it protected us. The next morning, I made a decision. I emailed them both. Subject, "One last time. Body, I know you're watching. Meet me tomorrow at noon. The cafe on 8th Street. After that, leave us alone, forever." I hit send before I could change my mind. I didn't tell Ethan, Sophie, or Mark. This wasn't about safety anymore. It was about taking back my voice. The next day, I sat in the cafe, corner table facing the door. My coffee went cold. My pulse didn't. They walked in at noon sharp. My mother looked older, her hands trembling as she clutched her purse. My father still carried that same cold authority, the kind that once made me small. He spoke first. "You didn't have to do this in public." "I wanted witnesses," I said. We sat. For a few seconds, no one talked. Then my mother whispered, "We just want to make things right." "Right?" I almost laughed. "You left your 15-year-old daughter alone with a note. You told people I stole from you. You broke into my brother's house. You watched your granddaughter from a distance. Tell me what right looks like to you." My father's jaw clenched. "We made mistakes, Ava, but we're family. Family forgives." I leaned forward. "Family doesn't abandon their kid and call it survival training." He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. "I'm not here to forgive you. I'm here to end this." I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. Every message, every threat, every photo, it's backed up and ready to send to everyone you know. If you contact me, Ethan, or Sophie again, I'll make sure your entire world sees the truth. My mother's eyes filled. "Please, Ava, we're getting old. We don't want to die alone." I stared at her, the same woman who'd left me to sleep on concrete. "You should have thought about that before you made sure I grew up alone." My father slammed his hand on the table. "You owe us respect." I stood, calm. "I owe you nothing. You took everything from me and called it parenting." I turned to leave. My mother's voice cracked behind me. "Do you really hate us that much?" I stopped at the door, looked back once. "I don't hate you. I don't feel anything for you. That's worse, isn't it?" Then I walked out. Outside, the sun hit my face like a spotlight. I could breathe again, really breathe. For 13 years, they'd controlled my story. Not anymore. I texted Ethan, "It's over." He called immediately. "What did you do?" I told them the truth, I said. "And I'm done." For the first time, he didn't argue, just whispered, "Thank you." 6 months later, we moved on. Ethan found a new job in Chicago. Sophie opened her art studio. Lily turned 4 and started preschool. They bought a small house nearby, and I helped design it. Warm colors, sunlight everywhere, no locked rooms, no dark corners. One night, as we celebrated Lily's birthday, I watched them laugh together, the sound filling a space that used to echo with loneliness. I thought about that note on the counter. "You'll figure it out." And I had. Not the way they meant, but in the way that saved me.